I want to hear what I mean to you.
No. You complete me.
You complete me. Yeah, no, you know what, man? It was always good that you knew that when you were going to battle that I had Runyan was on the other side. You know, you knew that. I think that one of the things when it came to our game, man, you knew that the other was going to be there. You know, you never had to worry about, man, is he going to show up to work today? You know, that wasn't something that you had to worry about. You knew that no matter what the situation was, that he was going to do everything that he could to get out there and play, and made sure that I was going to go out there and do what I had to do as well, because I don't want to let him down either. So, I think that kind of helped with our group, that our bookend tackles, both the tackles were just going to be there day in, day out.
Yeah, and it's that. I mean, it's our offensive line mentality. We do everything together, and it's awesome that we're coming in together, because if you only have 3 or 4 good offensive linemen, you have one bad one, all the blame gets put on you at the end of the day. So that's really what it was about, and Trey touched on it. He goes, it's dependability and being out there and doing it week in and week out. And taking care of those guys that, there were a lot of guys that interchanged in between us over that decade, and making sure those guys were all on the same page, because I know I've said this a million times in the offensive line room. If we're all doing the same thing, even though it's wrong, the people behind us, the backs and the quarterback, can adjust for it. But when you got a young guy or something out there playing the opposite tackle and he blows something and lets the linebacker run through the B gap or whatever, it looks bad on all of you. So it was just that. It was the stability on the edges to be able to have everybody inside interchangeable.
How much did what you guys did, because you were so far apart, like you said, there's 3 guys in between you, how much did it affect each other, if at all? It's not like being the center next to the guard.
It didn't, because you didn't have to think about it. You know what I mean? I knew he was going to do his job, and he knew I was going to do my job. And our focus was making sure, if there was a new guy in next to us, we were going to try to give them everything they could so they didn't affect our ability to do our job. And that's really the biggest thing there.
I think the only time on the field that we would come close to each other is if we were running our guys by the quarterback. So other than that, we wouldn't.
And that has opportunity for disaster a lot of times. You see a lot of guys get hurt in that collision behind the quarterback. And I know we were both pretty decent about peeking over our shoulder and making sure we didn't run into that pile. But it was like we knew what we were up against, and we knew when to look because of all those repetitions we had together.
How did you guys find out that you guys were going to the Hall of Fame? What was your initial reaction?
Mr. Lurie's secretary called me and wanted to book a schedule, a time to talk with him, and she said he wants to catch up with me. And I was kind of like, all right, what are we doing? What are we talking about? Are we going to talk about the weather? Is this like a wellness check? But I was hoping that, maybe this is the call, and, I'm going in now. So, I rushed home and got my wife on the phone, and I put had the call on speakerphone just so, my wife could be involved with it as well. And it was just a really good time to just get that phone call from Mr. Lurie.
It was much the same way. It was just kind of knew it was hanging out there, and when the appointment was set up, you're like, it's probably going to happen, but the appointment didn't happen for me for like 5-6 days. So it was like, did I say something on the radio or something? Like, I don't know, but it ended up being all good.
I was really excited for them. Did I feel like I was part of it? Not because you weren't on the team. You weren't on the team, and of course, as a player, you wanted to be that one on that team to bring that Super Bowl to the city. But I was extremely excited as a fan of the team, and just being a part of the organization. I was extremely excited. I was out there for the game and really celebrated just like everyone else for it.
And I'm much the same way. I mean, not only for the team, Jeffrey Lurie, but the city also. It was awesome because we know their thirst for it, and it was great to be a part of. But I said it. We had a fan breakfast yesterday morning. I said, problem is it was 10 years too late. Yeah. That kind of stuff. It's like we had our opportunity so many times, just came up a little bit short. But it was awesome to finally get that taste, even though we weren't part of it.
think every time I got out on the field was just fun. Can't think of any. Of course, you hate all the losses. Any games that you lost, you hate the game that we lost against in the Super Bowl. But I think that anytime I got a chance to suit up and put on that helmet, it was all good. I enjoyed every moment of it.
And much the same way. I mean, in this business, it's so focused on the negative all the time. So those are the things that are burned into your memory all the time. So it's the unfortunate part about it. But like Trey says, you remember the guys, the good times you had, the times you had off the field, the times you had, going out to dinner with the guys and all that kind of stuff. Those are the things you really miss, and those are the things you really cherish. Football is football. It was a great run. It was a lot of fun, which I know there's a lot of guys that played 10 years in this league that have been on teams that say it wasn't a lot of fun. I think we both can say we had a lot of fun playing here with the Eagles.
Now, how would you guys compare the organization you entered to the organization you left?
The organization I went to here to
The Eagles when you got here to the Eagles when you left, because a lot changed during that period in terms of
I think
what the team for you, the organization.
I think Coach Reed came in, and when he first came in, because I came in with Ray Rose, and it was just a totally different environment. It was extremely relaxed. You go hang out the night after the game or whatever, and stay in the city, things were just a little bit more relaxed. But man, when Big Red came in, it was like none of that. He was an iron fist when he first came in, and it was, and he had to be that way to kind of set the standard and show the rules to kind of get everybody on the right track. And I think that by him being the way he was, it kind of helped create a family environment where guys would kind of, come in and you knew the rules, you knew what you had to do, and then it kind of helped keep some of the younger guys in check as well. So I kind of liked the environment that Coach Reed brought in, and he also allowed us to be what we were. You didn't have to try to change and try to be a robot. Just be. One of the things that Coach Reed would always say is just like, let your personality show. Just be what you are, and just so long as you go out there and do what you need to do on the field. And I think that really helped us as a unit. Yeah, it's just accountability. When you're young, you just feel like, oh man, you don't take it as serious. But I think that one of the things that Coach Reed was just trying to get us is that, he wanted me to be accountable. He always wanted you to make sure you where you need to be, make sure that you're on the time. In my 11 years here, I was only late one time, and it pisses me off to this day when I think about it, because I was down there with Jamal Jackson at Dale State hanging out and messed around and was late for a practice and was like, damn. And Coach Reed benched me, and I was so pissed about it because in my 11 years, I was only late one time, and it bothers me to this day when I think about it. But I mean, as a coach, you need to be that way, and I think that I respect the hell out of him for that. You don't just because you're in this situation let things slide. You got to hold us accountable.
John, beyond the money of the free agent contract that you signed here, what did you see that persuaded you this was the place you wanted to be?
Really opportunity. Coming from a place like Tennessee where I was in the shadow of, frankly, playing with a Hall of Famer at the time. I had a Hall of Famer as a coach. And there were times Brad Hopkins, was one of the all-time greatest left tackles. I played with Mark Stepnoski. I was that young guy that no one knew anything about. And here was, a retool with Coach Reed coming in and restructuring this franchise, and them to come after me in free agency. Like, this is my opportunity to put a stamp on a team where I don't think I would have had that opportunity staying in Nashville with the likes of Bruce Matthews around me for the next 5 or 6 years. Yeah, it was basically jump in this car, we're going over here because we're doing a groundbreaking. I'm like, okay, like I just signed a contract like 2 hours ago. Like, where are we going? What are we doing now? And it was, we'll put it this way. That was my first toe stepped into the political realm, if you will. Well, I think the time I think the biggest thing you've seen and change in football in general, practice time has been squeezed. So, from Trey's kind of point of view, being coaching now, you have less time to coach guys. You see the fundamentals kind of like disappear from the game, specifically in the O-line play. And not only the time constraints, but the whole movement to the RPO world. All those like finite techniques that we used to spend hours on trying to execute, they're not really as pushed as much as they were in the game when we played it.
Man, training camp is soft right now. When I go and I look at training camp and they're like, oh, yeah, we have 2 days of pads and then now we're going to give them a day off. I'm like, what the, what? No, what is this? What is Lehigh? 3 days or 2 days? What is this? Now they get 2 days, we get a day off.
What's the quote now? It's not training camp, it's summer camp?
Yeah, it's summer camp, man. What is that? All these off days? Oh, man. It's just different. It's different. And I get it. You're trying to get the guys longevity. To me, I feel like it throws off the timing a little bit, but that's just my own personal thing.
I don't know if it's better suited for it because I think people are more used to it. Because Donovan was kind of, an outlier in that world of being athletic, being able to run. I mean, there were times in the early 2000s, I remember the statistics coming out. He was like 80% of the offense went through him, whether he was throwing or running the ball. And I think defenses have had to have time to adjust to that type of stuff, through the RPO world and all that kind of stuff. But it's the evolution of football. I mean, you go back before we played, where you're going the option run game, the wishbone kind of stuff. Like, it's the evolution, and you know what happens? It all comes full circle eventually in your lifetime. So we're just waiting for this period to die out to get back to the hardcore stuff here in the future.
In some markets, the offensive line are relatively anonymous. Do you think the profiles you had here is unique to the market? Was it because of the volume of players you were? Was it teams you were on? What do you think it is?
I think that, people it's starting to get a little bit more notoriety when you start talking about offensive line play, just because I think people are starting to break it down a little bit more, people that understand what's going on, because a lot of people don't really understand what the hell we do. You just look at the game, you just watch the running back, you look at the running back just pop open, it's a big run, and you're like, oh man, look at that running back, is awesome. You didn't see the combination block that got us to the linebacker, and we made that running back get to the safety clean, and then now he has this big run. So I think now you're starting to get guys go back and break down the film and show it and teach the game a little bit, so that the fans can kind of appreciate what we do as players, as offensive linemen.
It really comes down to the end of the day, information technology. The world's at your fingertips, so you can be educated on anything just by sitting at your computer or on your cell phone. So it's really that. Like, there's more information out there about what you do in the trenches. Therefore, people are going to know more about it, and you're going to get more notoriety for it.
When you guys found out about this honor, aside from your families, who's the first person that you reached out to on that?
I think the first person I actually reached out to, besides my family, was my guard that played next to me in high school, who will actually be here tonight cheering me on. So it's awesome.
I just reached out to my family. Yeah,
It was a necessity where I grew up. Growing up in Flint, Michigan, so I was 50 miles away from Ann Arbor. So Michigan football, Bo Schembechler, that's the way the game was played in my view, because that's all I ever saw. Between that, because growing up, I lived close enough to Pontiac where I couldn't get a lot of lines broadcast because they never sold out games. So I'd get the Bears feed. So you're talking about, the 80s Bears, that kind of stuff. Like, that's the football I grew up around, and I gravitated toward it. And I specifically tooled my game after a lot of those guys, like Michigan guys, like, Steve Everett, who played here, Dean Digman before him, Greg Skrepenik, those guys, like, how nasty they were and the things they did to people on that football field. Like, that's actually how you play the game. Okay, I can do that, and you just modeled yourself after it.
Trey, you were there. You were
Yeah.
a first round pick. John came in as a free agent. What was that? Your first kind of meeting with him like?
It was, all right, cool, let's go to work. You know, I don't know. We were just, because I mean, it was just so, Juan back then at the time was just, you know, anytime we got on the field, it was time to work. You know, it wasn't a, hey guys, let's meet each other and like we sit around and have a good time. You know, it was time to get to work. You know, anytime, you know, Juan had us out there. So it was just good to have him in there. All right, let's go. Here we go.
If Juan has an audience of one, you're actually watching tape. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What were your impressions of Trey?
No, it was awesome. I mean, you think about this, like, he's as big as I am, and he's way more athletic than me, and it's like, you're good with me. I was like, I know you can handle it. I struggle with it sometimes moving my feet, but he's got me beat every day, so not a worry in the world about what he was doing over there.
Jon, I know you're working for the league now, but what's it been like as a fan watching your son play? And how much do you guys kind of talk about your playing days?
He'll ask me questions every once in a while about technical stuff, and I'll correct some technical stuff, or just not even correct it. Just like, hey, if you do this, it's going to make your life easier in 3 to 4 years, or when you get that knee injury next month, you know, because you're out there using athletic ability now. But if you get the technique down and you slow down a little bit, you can still execute the same stuff and play a long time, but you have to have that foundation of that technique. So it is a little bit frustrating, you know, until I can actually get in the office on Monday and actually watch the coaching tape and the game film, because network's not showing me what I want to see in offensive line play all the time. So it does get a little bit frustrating, but it is exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. You know, I watch it. It's like, hey, you know, they blessed you. They missed 2 holding calls on you last week, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So.
I can't watch Junior all the time because then I'll be texting him during the game, hey, man, you need to work on this.
As you guys go in tonight, what do you hope your legacies are?
You know what? That I'll be always remembered as one of the best and not the best. That pisses me off that I'm not the best. but it's cool, man. It's going to be awesome that you're going to be remembered as one of the best, man. And that's just awesome when you look back at you know, this organization and, you know, what players are coming through to be remembered is just an awesome feeling.
It's just really simple. I mean, at the end of the day, it's grinding. It's your work ethic and being honest with people. And, you know, there are certain things, you know, even when you're on the club and you're in a press conference like this, you can't say to people, but you try to be as honest as you can and give them enough information. But that's really what it is work your tail off and develop solid relationships. And that's what life is all about. And that, you know, if more people took that approach to life, they'd be a lot more successful.
You guys are older than about 3/4 of this coaching staff. Did you ever think you'd see a day when such a premium was placed on youth and innovation, and so many chances were given to so many young coaches?
Yeah, nah. You know, this is a little different. You know, you see it around the league. You know, where guys are starting to come for the younger talent. You know, some fresh ideas. You know, but this is an extremely young group here. You know, hopefully it works out, man. You know, and then it's a young group that's going to continue to grow with each other. You know, so hopefully that's something that they.
And what do they say, Marcus? Age is just a number, right? I think you just called me old. But it's like, do you have the ability and the capacity to do the job? And, you know, it may go back to, you know, available information, how coaches are developing earlier. They're having more ideas. They're more into the analytics and understand little niches of the world that can actually make a difference on the football field that we didn't have, you know, 15, 20 years ago. So the whole dynamic of actually being prepared to be a coach is a lot different these days than it is working your way up through the ranks. It's just not like that anymore. And you see in general society and corporate America too.
Speaking of age, just being a number, is it weird that Brady is the quarterback tonight?
Man, he's still going, man. I mean, it's
It's a little-
ridiculous,
it's a
man.
little-
How many years is this for him?
Tom and I went to college together for 1 year, so
Yeah, man. So look at that, man.
that's how
I mean, he's
straight
still
it-
playing, man. It's ridiculous.
and he's
on-
played a game against my son already too. So
Yeah, man. I got to get on that vegan life, man. You know, so I can go
How do you guys feel physically after playing as many games?
I feel amazing. Sometimes I wake up and it's a little sore.
You have your days. I think
Yeah.
my biggest thing was taking I'm 285 now, so always trying to stay under 300 pounds. My back starts to hurt when I get over 300 pounds. So that, you have, I need a new ankle, but they tell me I got to wait 2 years for it. So I'm going to wait 2 years for it. So it is what it is. You knew that risk of injury, that risk of changing the trajectory of your quality of life long term was a side effect of actually doing this for a living. So you have to know that going in and understand that, but it's risk reward. And that's really how I took it and how I weighed those options.